Welcome to Heart of the Wild, the podcast where we explore the wonders of wildlife, the beauty of animal behavior, and the people devoted to protecting our planet's most extraordinary creatures. We have shared so much information on animals, and we wanted to expand on this a bit to the wider ecosystems that support them. With over 3 trillion trees on the planet, when we heard about the work that Abby Seneor was doing, we jumped at the chance to speak with her. Abby is a pioneer on mapping, protecting, and preserving the world's trees to help in vegetation intelligence, which is a word or a phrase that I just love. Abby, we're going to have to dig more into that. She's the founder and CEO of Treelyon, a technology company implementing smart, science based tree care practices. She's got a background in technology, working in high level roles for Microsoft and Intel, and she's shifted to ethical AI and urban forestry in her latest roles. With so many benefits to both humans and animals, we're very excited to learn more. And in a world where AI conversations are taking over and our natural resources are being exploited, we couldn't wait to hear more about a technology being used for good. Although I don't know how Abby feels about that wording. However, let's welcome Abby. Hello, Abby.
Hello. Thank you for having me.
Thanks for being here. We're just going to jump right in. Abby, so excited to talk about the importance of trees and their impact on the world at large and on animals and the greater ecosystem. But before we go into the technology and how it's helping in biodiversity, I just want to hear from you about your why and why you got into this and why it's important.
There is a lot to unpack, and I think when we ask people about trees, we most people think that it helps us breathing. When in a matter of fact, even if we cut down all the trees in the world, we will still be able to breathe because majority of the oxygen one is coming from the ocean. And second, we have reserves in the world that can help us still breathe for thousands of years. Um, so the benefit of trees are far beyond the oxygen. They are what makes everything that we have in the world livable. They are making our climate stable, food, water, biodiversity, which we'll get into it. There is um, a lot of research around the impact of trees on mental health. If you walk 20 minutes in a garden, it lowers your cortisol level. There are studies that show that patients in hospital where they have trees or green outside of the window, they recover faster. It's linked to cardiovascular disease and much more benefits that we can talk for hours in another podcast. And when we think about it, if I will ask you how many steps did you do today, what's your heart rate, um, Amazon know what are we going to buy for Black Friday. We know so much about us, about people. But if I will ask the average person, what is the health or what's the condition of the tree outside in the street, they will likely not know. So I call it data asymmetry. We have a huge gap between what we know about people to what we know about our basically living infrastructure. Mm. And that's where I came from when I started the work with trees. So our idea was first we need to close this gap. We need to know, we need to know more about our living infrastructure, our trees. What are they doing? How are they doing? Because it's there is a relationship between the trees to animals, which we'll get into it, biodiversity, and to us. Trees are not a nice to have, they're a need to have. If we don't have them, we will collapse. But I'm very excited because, and I'm getting excited more and more the more I learn about trees, because the technology that we have now and the advancement that we see in the last few years can help us to achieve that. And that's what we do.
Love it. And I love this comparison to almost like an aura ring for a tree, right? If you could dumb it down for me for 1 second, you talked about the why of like we would ultimately collapse. Can you dumb that down for 1 second? I really wanna I really wanna dig into, like, why does it matter if we know all this information about trees? Is it that, you know, you said we have enough air without them, technically, but, like, why does it matter if we know all data about trees and we take care of and, foster the trees around us?
So we can take few angles here. We'll start with the general health benefit of trees, which we mentioned before. And then the second part, we can go into the biodiversity part. So the first part is essentially trees are they clean the air, they cool cities, and we know now with climate change, if you sit under a tree, it's cooler 5 to 10 degrees Celsius. So imagine if you have a heat wave of 40 degrees, you see everyone running to sit under the trees. We have that. They clean air pollution. So we might have oxygen, but this oxygen might not be, yes, yeah, it will not be so great. And we have the benefits that are related to obviously our health, our mental health, our cognitive development. There are research that show the link between trees and green spaces to children cognitive development. So this is on the very basic level of our living being. But if we go one step a little bit deeper, trees cover roughly 30% of the earth, but it is a home for 80% of terrestrial species. So animals, mammals, all the organisms, they live mainly with trees. It's a habitat. Now, it's not something that it's there and we have no relationship with that. This is where our food is coming from. I mean, I had coffee today, definitely. Too much of
How
it.
many cups did you have?
Don't ask. This coffee is coming from a pollinator that is pollinating the plants. And cocoa, coffee, we have our fruits. So basically, if we don't protect our trees, the animal world will not survive as well, and we will not survive. So it's not even, people say it's a symbiosis. Trees need animals and animals need trees, and I said it's one step more. It's we need all that, because if we don't have trees, if we don't have animals, um, we don't have biodiversity, we don't have trees. If we don't have trees, animals die and cannot survive, and essentially it impacts us. So when I drink my coffee, I don't think just about this coffee pod that helped me to wake up this morning. I think about the entire chain, and if we don't protect that, it will collapse and it will affect us, because tomatoes, they don't grow in the supermarket. They are coming from somewhere, and it's not in isolation. So when we think about trees, and when we think about trees, sometimes, of course, in cities, you have trees that I call them green deserts because they are pretty, but they have absolutely zero benefit beyond the beauty, which it has its benefit. But it goes much more beyond that. When you walk in a forest, it's not just a forest. An average tree can be a vertical city. You have species in different level of the tree. You have in the roots, you have in the trunk, you have in the lower canopy, in the top canopy. Sometimes, and if you go to the Amazon forest, you have in 1 hectare more than 700 species of trees, and each one of them can have sometimes more than 400 species. So it's a habitat. It's nearly like a city, and they need each other. I mean, we can go into it much more. So animal need trees obviously for food. right? And for shelter. But if we talk about food, fig tree. We have more than 700 species of figs, and the fig tree is is really special because it has fruits all year round. So there are hundreds of species that are depend on the fig tree in lean month. So if we don't have fig, they all will starve, and so it's a chain. Um, but again, trees are not just a vending machine for animals. They are also providing shelter. Another good example for food, which I love, the koala in Australia, right? You have, again, 700 or more species of eucalyptus. The koala can only look for only a very specific species of eucalyptus, between 20 to 30 of them. And it can only eat these leaves from these specific species. Now, the reason koalas sleep so much is because the leaves of the eucalyptus are very low nutrition, so they need to preserve every calorie. But imagine if this specific eucalyptus going extinct, then the koala will not survive. So it's not that we are protecting trees for the sake of protecting trees. We are protecting trees to preserve an entire ecosystem. The ecosystem is not just animal, it's in the end, it's us. So you have the food, and then again, you have shelter. Trees, you have, for example, you have the woodpecker that poke holes in the bark of the tree, create cavities, and then later on it become a house for other bats, owls, and other animals that live there. Even in a dead, so to speak, a dead tree, you sometimes have hundreds of species living there. So when you see a tree, it's not black and white. I remember, I once gave a talk about detecting cavities in trees using technology, and there was this lovely British guy came to me after, and he's working with ancient trees. If you listen to this podcast, um, you really opened my eyes. So he came to me and he said, "You know, it's great that you can detect cavity with technology. Just by the way, for everyone to be aligned, cavities is when you have this big hole in the tree, which on the outside it might, I perceived it always as dangerous because it reduces stability of the tree. And there are a lot of methods how you measure tree stability. And obviously, if you have a big hole in the tree, the stability of the tree, if you have a wind coming, it has a big impact and the tree might fail. So for me, cavity is well bad, it's dangerous. And then this lovely man came to me and said, but listen, cavities are not bad. You have a lot of life and biodiversity in them. So I'm really worried that if you will tell people in your platform to remove trees with cavities, you are basically killing the habitat of these species that living there. And at that moment, I remember it really opened my eyes to say, okay, I'm coming from technology, but if you deal with living beings, and it's not just trees, it's animals, you have to understand what's going on. And it's much more complex than, okay, this is a tree, there is context to it. So, yes, animals need trees, but it's a mutual relationship because trees need animals too. Mm-hmm. We know that trees cannot walk, although a few weeks ago, I I heard about a startup that is creating moving trees, but
Moving trees, and in what how are they moving the trees, or are
they put a tree in some sort of a box with a robot, and then the tree move itself. It's a nomad tree, move a little bit to place where it needs more. I don't want to go into it, but trees, generally speaking, they don't move and they shouldn't. Um, so they need to have a way to spread, right? And if and they came with a really smart mechanism. They said we will have fruits, and this fruit will be so amazing that animal will come and eat it, and they will take it with them, and then that's how tree will be
Repopulated.
yes.
Yeah.
And and a good example for that is I love this blue jay bird, a beautiful bird, which is basically an oak planting
Machine.
because what it does in the autumn month, a few thousand of the acorns, it takes them to eat, and then it plant them, it hid them in the ground, and it's a bird doesn't have an amazing memory, so sometimes it forgets where it hid them, and these acorns become oak trees. So when you see now, I don't when I see a jay or when I see an oak tree, I see differently. So
I'll see that differently. I've never realized that that was the case between an oak tree and a jaybird in terms of the fact that they're sort of replanting all these new oak trees everywhere. That's incredible.
if you have some time, you can look into it. It's very clever and complex, but it's amazing. And you have that, but also you have the second part of what we mentioned before, the pollinators, right? So in the end, you have the replanting, but you also have the reproduction. We mentioned the fig trees. Now you have 750 types species of fig, and each one has a specific wasp that is pollinating them. So it's not that every wasp can pollinate every fig tree. You have a specific one. And then this wasp, once it detects the ripeness in the right time of the fig, it goes inside the fig, and then essentially, because the hole is so tight, it loses its wings, and then it lay an egg. It dies, and the egg
The wasp dies in the fig.
yes, and then the male hatches emerge first, but the male, the only purpose of the male is to mate with a female, and then create a tiny crack, and then what happens is the female then get out of this crack to continue the circle, and the male doesn't even see the outside world. So essentially, when you eat a fig, you eat some of this wasp relationship. Don't worry, the the enzyme in your body,
Oh God, I don't know if I can eat any more figs after
the enzyme in your body break it down.
Yeah.
But it is again, if we don't have the wasp, we don't have the figs, and then all the animals that we mentioned before, the hundreds of species that depend on the fig trees for for food in lean month, they will not survive.
It's such a, I mean, it's such a clear connection between all of these animals and insects and wildlife and the trees that you are monitoring and protecting and and the technology that you're using to do so. It's incredible. And I love the sort of stories behind that. That I'm curious if there are examples that you've seen where the work that you're doing or the technologies that you've worked with in the past even have helped any particular species or any particular sort of bits of wildlife to flourish or I don't know. I would say flourish would be a good word.
I like this question. I think we can look at it from two angles. One is probably indirect, because at the end of the day, if trees are not healthy, there cannot be life, right?
Mm-hmm.
So if we protect the trees, then indirectly or directly, we protect the life of um, whoever is living there.
Yeah.
So we have to make sure that they are healthy. And the interesting part, I love that you mentioned technology, is that's why I'm so excited because most of the time when you see tree under stress, it might be too late. And there are on the
Sorry, really quickly. How do you know if a tree is in stress?
there are changes that is happening in the tree on the chemical level, and we cannot see it in our naked eyes because our visual spectrum is really narrow. We can only see 7 colors, whereas tree, they have much wider spectrum which we cannot see. So changes will happen on the chemical level in the leaf, and if we will wait until the point that we can see it, it's too late. But now we have special cameras, hyperspectral, multispectral, that can see this wider band, and we can monitor the stress, the drought, the exact water content in the tree, how much light the tree absorbs, which is correlated to the health of the tree. So if we make sure that the trees are healthy and they are not under stress, and then we can protect them, then obviously we will keep the life going.
So is that why when a the leaves change on a tree or the bark color changes on a tree, that would be an indicator of the tree being in stress?
Yes, yeah, and there is another part that is very interesting, and I like that you mention it. It's not all sunshine and rainbow in this relationship. There are also invasive species.
I was so interested to hear more about this because obviously there's this symbiotic relationship
Yeah.
between animals and insects and trees, but then you hear about tree populations dying out because of invasive species, etc. So I would love to hear more about that.
Yes, so you have species that are invasive. For example, you have the longhorn beetle, which can kill a tree. It attack different type of tree species, and it can kill a tree in a matter of 2 years, 2 3 years, a few years. Which for us it sounds a lot, but in terms of tree life, it's really not a lot. Just for context, and another reason why I'm fascinated about trees is um, I would say something that maybe scientists will not be extremely happy with me, but practically trees are somehow immortal. They can live for thousands of years, and even when you cut them down, they have a way where they regrow. So when you talk about even 10 years in tree life, it's not that much. Sometimes you have damages or you have fungi that attack a tree, and it takes many, many years. It can take 20, 30 years until the tree fail. So that's another reason why we have to build that technology now, because we might not be here when a tree that we start monitor will fail, but someone in 50, 60, 70 years needs to know what happened now.
I have a rogue question, sorry, with what you're saying, because knowing that these trees are infallible in many ways and live for thousands of years, have you ever had a tree that you were monitoring that you sort of, felt connected to and felt really sort of devastated if it were cut down or if it failed and it were showing signs of negative life? I almost akin this to the animals that we talk about on this show where, if the animal were to fall into bad health or die, it would be really devastating for its caregiver. So you are like a caregiver of a tree. And I don't know, is there that sort of similar connection?
I didn't expect that question,
I know, sorry, it's a rogue. I went rogue.
but I like the question because it makes me think. I love all trees. It's I will not say that it's like asking who is your favorite child. One, I don't have children. Second, maybe it's not a fair comparison. But I will say that it's a little bit more complex to it, because sometimes you have cases where you have to cut down a tree. If you have a tree that is, let's say, close to a kindergarten, and this tree is extremely unsafe or unstable, there is a risk that this tree will fail and will kill people. And we have example of that. I think I heard last year there was a tree failing in Regent Park and killing a person. So in that case, yes, you have to cut down a tree. So I think it's not so black and white. Unfortunately, I live in a city and I don't have trees in my garden. I would love to. So there is no specific tree that I am strongly attached. Um, yeah, but there are parks where I go hiking, which when I go, that I have my favorite trees, and I go and I just sit down. I don't hug them, but
But you want to hug them sometimes. I love that. No, I think that's such a rational, fair answer. There were, oh God, there was a I think a governor, maybe the Texas governor, who was fairly recently running in the US, and a tree fell on him and he was paralyzed. So that's such a good example. Not the one that I just mentioned. It's a terrible example, but it's a legitimate example of the need to track and monitor these trees and their health, and to cut them down as needed to make sure that safety and health are also a big piece of this as well.
and especially in urban environments, trees are much more under stress because it's not their natural habitat. If you think about it, this is not where they're supposed to be.
Yeah.
It's the same as animals are not supposed to be in cages, right? So trees, they are growing in forest, and in forest they live much longer. In city, the lifespan of trees is much shorter. There are some studies that say that trees in city live 25-40 years, when in nature they can live hundreds or even 1,000 years. So, and the reason is because they are under a lot of stress, and also because we don't really monitor them properly. I just want to go back because I realized I didn't answer the question about the invasive species. So, for example, what I said, the uh, longhorn beetle or the emerald ash, which can be extremely devastating for certain tree species. They can really kill them in a few years. That's how we diverted. Um, the challenge is when you see the sign, for example, the longhorn beetle, you can see sign of small holes, really like circle, really um, um, like perfect
Like a
circles in the
triangle.
tree, which you can detect it from a laser scan or from an image. But when you see it, it's already too late. So you have to be able, and also because these beetles are so small, it's extremely hard to see them in laser scan. It's nearly impossible with high resolution images. Again, it's extremely challenging. So what you are looking at is not let's find the beetles, is let's find the signs that will indicate that there is a beetle here, right? It's the same as with people health. Sometimes you look at the sign and then you know what caused it.
Mm.
So again, if we look at the visible signs, it's too late. But with the technology that we have, we are able to detect changes in trees in the chemical level, and that we can do. And when you detect that early enough, you can still do something. So that's why it is so important to monitor them and not just wait until we see something, because then it is really too late. And there is another point which I will mention quickly. Some of these species, some of these beetles, they are invasive for certain species, but they are also for other. They are just a natural. That they are natural in a forest, so they are not invasive to all of them. And if a tree is or forest is resilient, they can. It's like our immune system. They can handle the attack. So it's not in all cases, but if we make sure that the tree is healthy, then they are more likely to be able to manage if there is an attack of some invasive species. Sometimes it's not. and it just can kill millions of trees. But sometimes, yes, if a tree is weak, then the effect is much stronger.
I didn't realize that there was a sort of resilience level to trees or yeah, obviously that the health would come into play. That's so interesting. Um, and we are coming up to time, unfortunately, but I wonder what your thoughts are on what an everyday, non sort of technology based ethical AI, person could do to help with the health of trees or in any kind of climate action kind of role. What would you say to listeners out there who are thinking about getting involved?
I love this question. Um, I think I will mention three things. The first one is
Put us to work. Put us to work.
the first one is the fact the awareness is already a big, big thing. It's the same as I said when I realized the life around trees, because when I started to work with trees, it was, oh yeah, they are nice, it's a tree. But when you realize that it's much more complex than just a tree, it has life in it, and this life is connected to your food, to your everyday life, it makes you look at things differently. It makes you appreciate things differently. So first, on the awareness level, it's very important. And once you see it, you cannot unsee it. The second is on a practical side of things. If you have a garden and you can plant trees, then do it. But plant native trees. Native trees have much more biodiversity and they survive much better than if you plant non-native trees. And we don't have time, but we can also talk about it. Much more cases where non-native trees were planted, and the devastating consequences of that. Um, and also something that might sound a little bit controversial, but if you have a garden, keep it a little bit messy. This perfect green lawn, this is a green desert. There is nothing going on. The life is in the mess, is in the leaves that are in just falling down the tree. Leave it. It's okay. It's a habitat for life. But if you're like me and you don't have a garden and you still love trees, um, you can help from the tech side. So we have citizen science apps where you can contribute. You can take a picture of a tree and you can contribute to database of tree species. We have in Treelyon, we have a citizen science app where you can scan a tree and then we create a 3D model of that tree and we give you a full assessment of that tree. And you can also report if you see something, because we didn't talk a lot about the complexity of the tech, but sometimes there are certain damages that you don't see and they can happen maybe quickly in a time where you didn't monitor. So if there is a big storm or there was rain and there is a branch failing and it's dangerous, especially in an urban environment, then you can help, you can report it. So these are the practical things that you can do on the tech side.
I know 20 people off the top of my head that would love to learn about the trees in their backyards, the trees in their urban areas. I've got tons of friends in London and New York City near Central Park, or even downtown. There's just little sort of like sections of trees planted that would be so excited about downloading Treelyon and taking pictures and learning about the health and efficacy of those trees. So if you haven't done that, anyone listening, get on that. That is cool. I'm doing that as soon as I leave the studio because I there are parks right near me in London, and I love going to the park with my dog and seeing all the foliage and the trees, and I can't wait to do that. Thank you. Thank you so much for being here. Thank you for all of your incredible knowledge, for your passion to help the ecosystem at large. I can see it. I can see it in your face, hear it in your voice. The work that you're doing is so important, and it's niche and it's necessary. And I can't wait to follow along on what happens with Treelyon. And it's, as I said in the beginning, we hear so much about AI and how it's taking away our resources. And it's so beautiful to hear that there are people that are doing good with technology.
Can I add something?
Of course.
So,
But then you're going to have to guess an animal noise.
but I'm going to use tech for that.
Oh, cool.
For me, I will say it might sound a little bit cliche, but I feel it's a little bit of my legacy. I feel like the world need to have something like that, and it's not for me. It's for generation because, as I said, tree they live so long. So in 60, 70, 100 years, we might not be here, but they will be. And we have to take care of that. And an interesting anecdote, and I brought it with me. So
Bring it out.
when I got that from, I got that a few weeks ago. When I was, I think it was 11, there is a Jewish holiday which is uh, New Year for plants and for trees. And it's basically celebrating a tree starting, it's around spring, starting to flourish and have fruits again. And when I think should have been 10 or 11, we had to write an essay for that holiday. Not a long essay, we are 10 years old, nothing too crazy. And I don't know why, but I decided to write nearly a book. So I remember sitting in the libraries for weeks, not sleeping, and we didn't have internet where I grew up. So I would sit in a library, collect notes, photocopy pages, and I wrote this, what is it, 52 pages, nearly book. And it's all about comparing a, a human to the tree. And it does a beautiful comparison, and I say it objectively, although I wrote it, between the season and how tree has season and how we have seasons. And I read it again, and it made me nearly cry. And I was thinking how interesting life is, because I clearly didn't really think much about trees back then. I just did it because it was a homework, but I clearly had passion even then to trees because I wrote. I mean, it's a book, and it's written really nice. And I don't even know why my parents kept it. You usually throw away all your child school stuff, and they kept it. And I got it a few weeks ago, and I feel like it's a closing, um, kind of closing a circle, and yeah.
That is so beautiful. Thank you for bringing that. Thank you for sharing that. And I hope that's inspiring and a lesson to people listening. Legacy is so important, and you are leaving something behind to all of the future generations to come, leaving the world better than where you came into it, and that's all that you can really ask for. So thank you very much for everything that you're doing. All right, Abby, are you ready?
Yes, I am.
Bring out that This is my favorite segment, how we always end our shows. We have our guests guess an animal noise.
So I am going to use tech um, to recognize it.
Abby's tech is like Shazam for bird sounds. Although you didn't really, we don't know if it's a bird for sure.
We will see, and we will do two things. One, we will evaluate if this app is good, and if it's good.
What is the name of? Oh wait, okay. We'll see if it works first.
um, I need to record the sound, so
If it has to go into your headphones. Okay, ready? So listen in one ear and then use this in the other. Did it work? What's your guess? Do you have a guess?
Okay, I saw it. So it said Eurasian magpie,
Yes.
species of crowns and jays.
Okay. The app worked. That is correct.
Cool.
That's very cool. What app did you use for anyone who is interested in identifying bird sounds?
It's called Merlin, and you can upload a picture of a bird or record a sound.
That's awesome. Okay, cool. Everyone download Merlin and Treelyon. We are giving you all of the inside scoop
I don't
today.
know who are the creator of Merlin, but
We'll
apparently it
give you
works.
we'll give you a link in the show notes. Thank you so much, Abby. Thank you everyone for listening. And as always, let the heart of the wild inspire not just awe, but action. And we will see you soon. Bye.
Bye.